Hi everybody, welcome to Starseed Mission Support. I'm checking my mic. I do apologize if you see a whooshing sound in the background. That's my computer fan. As you can see, I am still not in my studio. I won't be for another couple weeks, and so just bear with me as we're still championing Starseed Mission Support wherever we are, because these Saturdays we absolutely cannot miss. And I'm welcoming all the people that are tuning in live. I'm gonna hop live on here on Instagram as well. So everybody, I invite you to just take a nice, long, deep breath right into the chest, right into the belly. And I welcome you into the space. Hi, welcome. People are starting to tune in. I want to start today's discussion real quick by inviting you to join my Telegram group. The reason for that is that oftentimes I get a lot of downloads and I can't really share everything I want to on public platforms. And so Telegram channel is one place where I'm able to share my intel as it comes in, as I'm experiencing it. And so there's layers to this Starseed Mission Support that I can't write about in the title and in the description. And so for those of you that want to get another layer deeper into this mystery school, you can go ahead and join my free Telegram channel. Of course, this is another way to stay connected with me, just, in the case that the AI decides to shut me down or whatever the case, you can still stay connected with me on my Telegram. You can find the link to that in the description below, or in the link in my bio on Instagram. And I'll just share the link here in the chat real quick. Yeah, so I get to share more of my candid experiences about, ETs and everything that's happening in the collective energies and the kind of secret layers of the Starseed Mission Supports, because there's so many things that I want to share. I just can't candidly talk about those things, obviously, because those things are heat and they get censored. And I would like for these teachings and this information to get out as to many people as possible. And so if you're wanting that extra layer of information and support, you can go ahead and join that channel so we can stay connected, no matter what happens on these platforms that just seems to be unreliable. Even though I'm very grateful, clearly they're serving us in a great way. I'm connecting to so many of you on these platforms, and so I can't really complain about that, but we just want to make sure that we can still connect and I can still get this information out there even if something happens. Before we dive into our topic for today, which is societal trauma, soul fragmentation, and quantum healing, I want to give a little bit of an energy update on things that I've experienced this week. And I have a favor to ask all of you as well. What is inspiring this conversation today is basically this realization that there needs to be a deeper discussion around why we have a society like we do today, where most people have no understanding or awareness of who they are on a soul level. This, did not happen by accident. This was totally a planned part of the false matrix prison system. So we're going to break that down on why there is so many layers of societal trauma, why it's normalized for people to not remember who they are. We hear a lot about this, about how, oh, there's a veil and being born on the earth means that you forget who you are. And it's to the point where we all have just accepted this as being totally normal when it absolutely isn't. And perhaps it was for a certain period of time, for certain experiments and realities to exist on the earth. But at this point, at this moment in time, those experiments and veils are dissolving. This is why we're beginning to remember who we are on a soul level and beginning to remember that there is a soul, and we're learning about energy, and a lot of these, sciences are coming back online. And so we're going to be talking about the science that many advanced galactic civilizations that are in form, that have bodies. We talk about biospirituality, which is the science of incarnation and how souls come into form, and the process of souls and consciousness activating and integrating into form, and how this is so important for us to understand right now so we can actually engage this planetary situation of mass amnesia and trauma. And so before we get into any of that, this week I was severely assaulted by Spotify, the audio app. Um, Many of you use this app. You know that recently I started putting my music on there. I've always been pretty impressed by, how this app is able to make it really easy to discover new music. And music is something that is so dear to me. I love music. I love discovering music. I love listening to people's music. I love being able to find random people's music from across the world that I like. However, it's become abundantly clear, and somebody even posted an article that the CEO of this company supports AI weaponry, which is, really horrible. And yesterday, I opened this app. By the way, just like, this is an extreme warning. Do not go looking for this. Don't go looking for this, because it really spiked my nervous system. And unless you really know how to, regulate your nervous system and how to heal yourself, you know, I'm telling you this so you don't have to look at it and you can protect yourself. And I know that despite me saying that, some of you are still going to go look at it. And when you look at it, you're going to regret it. So don't go looking for it. Okay. But basically, I opened this app and friggin' Kanye's new album's like right in the friggin' thing. I don't even listen to Kanye. I've never, like, I don't really connect with that energy. And this album is literally the picture of a skinned monkey. Like, it's just like a real skinned monkey, like in my face on this app. And I was so distraught by this. I was so disturbed by this. Okay. I was so disturbed by this that I don't even have words to describe how disturbed I am. So don't go looking for this. The reason why I'm telling you this is because there is a wave that's happening on the planet right now of basically, I feel the elites, they're being pushed into a corner and they're kind of scrambling to keep this simulation or keep the false matrix alive. Now, we're going to break down the spiritual components of the false matrix and how this prison system works today, right? And why, the nervous system and how souls incarnate, how that bridge between the other realms and this physical realm, why it's so esoteric and this information is hidden, but it's things that we experience on a day-to-day basis. I mean, if you're a human being, then you experience yourself as a consciousness in a body. There's no way around it. So it's really something that we're experiencing, and yet the real knowledge of it, the real awareness of it, the science of it, has been hidden from us. And this is not new science. This is science that has been around for a real long time. Ancients like Taoist people, Mayan people, all sorts of ancient people have their own studies of the science of incarnation. And so for whatever reason, right now, we're in this great forgetting or this great amnesia, and it's all been planned. And so hopefully by the end of the transmission today, you have an understanding of why things like, I don't even want to say it, but like, the stuff that they're harvesting from ritual abuse, from the fear and the chemicals and the hormones from the body, why that's all relevant on a spiritual level. And specifically, don't go looking for the album, but I really want you, if you're feeling called to go ahead and report that on Spotify. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but my immediate reaction was just that, teens and children are on that app listening to music all the time. And I'm not the only one that got bombarded by this image that is just completely inappropriate. Like, in no circumstance is it ever appropriate to just display that level of life abuse, animal abuse, just on a public platform. I mean, they're taking down, videos of women giving birth, saying that that's against community guidelines and stuff on Instagram. And so, if these things are just popping up and they're infiltrating mass consciousness like this, we have to address it in some way. And the reason why this is coming up right now as well, and I've seen multiple things like this week, I'm noticing an uptick of this push of normalizing Satanism in society. Part of this is through, there was recently a clip of a satanic sermon that was just played on Australian news, confirmed by various Australian friends that are over there. It was just this 1 second clip that made it onto public television. That was one thing. Another thing is they're pushing, satanic clubs at schools. So all of these things are happening right now to push a certain agenda of normalizing, satanic culture. Now, if you've been following my work from the past, you've heard me talk about this normalization of satanic culture and how it doesn't even need to be that extreme. We've been living inside of a satanic culture this whole time. I'm going to explain this in another way today. The reason why it's so important for us to integrate these things and see how they've affected us and how they literally play out in our day-to-day life. It's so important for us to become aware of these angles of perceiving reality, because when you crap. Sorry, I'm just getting distracted by this comments. I usually block, I can't focus when things are flying all over the place. I have very sensitive faculties. Okay. The thing is that when we talk about disclosure and pedophilia and ritual abuse and things like that, it's very easy to say, well, things are happening over there. Like, oh, well, I'm not being trafficked. I'm not being ritually abused. I'm not attending satanic rituals, and so it's not really touching me. And there's this externalization or this sensationalism that can happen where we think is happening out there and we need to reveal it somehow. But the most important thing that we can really reveal is the realization that we have all been born into a society that is completely disconnected from any sense of true reverence and divinity and sacredness in life. And there's somebody here that is saying, oh, don't focus on the bad. Well, the thing is that if you are not aware of how these things have shaped your consciousness in the time you were born, then you can't really reclaim your power and you can't really reclaim your soul so that you're completely embodied. Now, I'm somebody that remembers my soul, where I was, the information that I have learned over many lifetimes. And I'm somebody that worked very hard on discovering these things. And so from the place that I'm sharing all of this with you is that there is, this veil. If we're not aware of it, if we don't pay attention to it, if we don't reveal it and unveil it, then we're going to be trapped inside of it, and we're going to think that we're awake, and we're not going to be able to do as much as we could if we are completely connected to our soul and in remembrance of who we really are. And so this is why we have to break down these concepts. Okay. So recognizing that there's this push of this energy, the transmission that's coming through in support of our Starseed mission for the coming months, is to know that things are not getting worse. Okay. It looks like things might be getting worse. It might look on the outside that things are crumbling and the control systems are even coming down harder in some countries. Some countries are opening up, but energetically on a mass level, it might feel like there's this heaviness, but it really is a revealing. Things are not getting worse. Things just have to be revealed in this really intense way. And the way that I'm seeing it, it's almost like this really yucky boil that just needs to pop, and it's festering and it's infectious and it's just diseased, right? And this is like the underbelly of all the stuff that has been hidden in the past. The ritual abuse, the human trafficking, the pedophilia, all of that stuff, the negative ETs, the control system, it's kind of been, under this veil. And right now it's getting ready to pop, and all this puss is there. And it's this, infection that just needs to erupt so that true healing can actually begin to take place. And so we can't be, spiritually airheaded and just, focus on the light, because this is spiritual bypassing, right? It's like, the way that I always say is like, if an armed robber breaks into your house with a gun and your family's in there, are you going to say, oh, I can't focus on that, I got to focus on the good, or are you going to defend your family? So what's happening is this full-on assault in human society by these, elites, by the negative aliens, whoever you want to say. All of them is true. All of these layers are true. In order for us to fully address this situation, we have to understand it. We have to have knowledge of the system itself, and knowledge of how it interacts with our biology and our system, and then knowledge of ourselves so that we can move forward, with action plans and a system and a process that allows us to reclaim our creative power. And this is what we do here at the Earth Star Academy. We are really excited to dive in. All this is to say that all we need to do is stay together, stay lit, stay in love, stay motivated, right? I feel like it's actually quite a vibrationally ripe time. A great analogy of this is recently I was watching some sort of class about business, because this is something that I have to begin to understand. And a lot of starseeds are going to have to start to understand, because what we are quickly realizing is that the people that really bring through solutions for problems in society are the entrepreneurs. Now, if all the entrepreneurs in society are of a certain consciousness, then we're going to have a society that is of a certain consciousness. And so now we're needing the starseeds of high consciousness to actually begin to create actual solutions in society in the form of products, in medicine, objects, projects, all of these things that need to be created to create a new foundation and a new backbone of human civilization. This is how we're moving forward with the Starseed mission on a long run. And so this is another way that the starseeds are being called to get empowered and get activated, so that we can actually begin to transform the foundations of this 3D reality with our higher consciousness, thus evolving collectively into a golden age. It's not just going to happen. Aliens might appear from the sky, but they're not going to come down here and do the work for us, because that's why we incarnated into human bodies. And there's no greater fulfillment then the experience of cosmic energy coursing through my body and transforming into creation. Okay, this is the stuff that we are so friggin' into. Okay, so on that note, we're going to get into our conversation today. I'm going to try to keep it down um, to an hour because the past couple of Starseed Mission Supports have been like 2.5 hours long, and it's, just a lot. So I'm going to try to keep today's SMS just to an hour. I'm going to share a really great healing tool with you at the end of this video. And so let's get right down into it. The first topic of today's conversation is societal trauma. So we need to talk about societal trauma because in order to heal, we need to reveal. We need to reveal what is needing to be healed because there's so many layers of this that unless we can talk about it very openly and we can talk about it very specifically, we're going to miss components of it. And so the perspective that we're carrying here at the Earthstar Academy is that basically, if you are a human that is watching this live stream here, it's very likely that you were born into a complex spiritual prison system. People call it by a lot of names, right? Like the Matrix. I say it's the false Matrix, but I was born into the system. Many starseeds were born into the system. Most people are born into the system. This realization is really important as part of our lucidity training because this is the underlying fact that is coloring everything else in our society. So without integrating this realization, we can split, our consciousness can split, and our awareness can split into perceiving only slices of the reality, right? This is when we get into the division of saying, oh, well, these people are so asleep. And, recently saw this shirt that says, it's not a pandemic, it's an IQ test. And it's like, it's funny, kind of, but is really like, not great because it's like making fun of people's trauma. It's making fun and making light of the fact that humanity have been under this level of spiritual abuse. And once you turn your vision on to perceive all of society as being under this kind of abuse, it's no longer funny and it's no longer divisive. There's only compassion in our heart to realize that this is actually the level of work that we came down here to heal, right? And to love back into wholeness. And so the perception and the realization that almost everyone here was born into a complex spiritual prison system is important because then we can begin to perceive everything through that lens. And the reason why that's important is because then, only then, can we realize how that system has affected us and our process of growth, right? So what we're learning is that the bars of this prison is not literal. It's not like there's some reptilian that's standing outside your house saying, you're trapped on Earth or whatever. The bars of this prison is energy, it's consciousness, it's beliefs, it's frequency, it's mind control. And the way that we experience all of those things is in what is as seemingly innocent as societal norms, right? What we all accept as normal, what all humanity has accepted as normal. And so then what that means is that we have to begin to break down and really take notice of what we have accepted as normal. And most of this is going to be in the subconscious or the unconscious. Personally feel like the fact that there is such a widely accepted reality, like most people accept this commonly passed around truth that 90% of our consciousness is unconscious. And the scientist, the galactic scientist in me really has red flags around that, and I've shared that in the past, but I'm going to break this down. Okay, so we're going to come back to that. One thing, the next thing that I want to bring in, so I'm going to say a couple of things and then I'm going to tie everything together at the end. So just follow me here for a second, okay? What I want to bring in here is this discussion around biospirituality. Biospirituality is the science of incarnation. Science is the process of understanding, of acquiring knowledge, right? So obviously his word is being thrown around these days, almost weaponized. And, certain factions of the control system has always used science, unfairly to sustain their power. For example, when Galileo discovered or realized that the Earth wasn't in the center of the universe, the scientists were like very upset. And the Pope, they pretty much put him on house arrest and killed him, right? And that's kind of, how science is misused and weaponized on this planet by the control system. Now, because, the my work resonates with many of you because you also come from other places. Many of my higher dimensional aspects are scientists. The one that I have worked the longest integrating is my 70 self from Andromeda, which is a light field geneticist. And so that aspect of me, when it activated and began to step into this physical body back in 2013, my mission came online. I began to perceive everything through the lens of a galactic scientist, a galactic anthropologist, right? It was my mission to study human civilization from my own eyes. So I wasn't getting downloads. No master up there was telling me how to think or how to see things, because I am the galactic being that came down onto the earth to survey and perceive the reality, to get feedback that is organic and natural thought. That's also why these understandings are resonant with you, because this is also the process that you've been undergoing. It just so happens that I'm speaking these things, right? It's like none of the things I'm saying are things that are new to you. You've already perceived that with your own eyes. You're able to perceive these things because you are also a multidimensional, higher dimensional being. And so through your own psychic and higher dimensional perceptions, you've been looking at society, and these are the things that you've been perceiving, even if you didn't have the words for them. And the reason for that is, where we come from, we do have words for these things, and we've probably studied these things in elementary school in these more advanced civilizations. And so all of the things that I'm sharing with you is a remembrance, right? It's not really like I'm telling you anything revolutionary or new, but it does feel like a homecoming. You can let me know if that's how it feels like for you. But then, as I was guided to perceive and survey and basically break down society, this is the work that I've been doing for the last 10 years. It's finally time for me to publicly share my findings. I knew that I was going to one day be doing this, this whole time. It's just that I needed that time to really understand what I was seeing and break it down and write these things down and file them in my brain. So what I realized was that the false matrix exists on the premise that humanity doesn't know itself. Okay, the only way that a control system could exist is if humanity has no idea who or what it is. Because if humanity truly knew who humanity is, which is, designed to be a creator being, embodiment of divine infinite creation energy, ability to co-create with source, and all of these things designed into the DNA, if humanity knew that, no human would choose to exist in the kind of society that we have now. And so in order for the control system and for the elite and the cabal, whatever, to actually continue and perpetuate this false matrix, the first thing that they had to do was basically brain wipe and memory wipe everyone and keep souls from coming into the body. So this is where the understanding of the science of incarnation comes in. Okay, so the science of incarnation is the understanding that there is a soul, and the soul is this eternal part of you that is always connected to source, that can come into physical existence and leave physical existence and have different lives as different forms. But this is a part of you that can, be alive for billions of years and continue on to learn many, 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 many things over a really, really long time. And so when a society is awakened, like in other societies that are documented in ancient times, like in Africa, in the Native American traditions, in the Mayan and South American and Asian and Pacific, basically every connected ancient culture, they have their own way of bringing souls across from the other side of the veil. you will see rituals, you will see songs, you will see ceremony, you will see shamans that perform different things and hold space as a community as children are being conceived and as children are being born and as children are growing inside of society, because these societies exist with the underlying understanding that there is a soul and there is life beyond and after death, and there are dimensions beyond this physicality. Okay, these things are not new and they're not absurd. It's just that we were born into a society that was literally a complex spiritual prison system. And so these realities and these understandings have been deleted from our understanding, have been taken out, forcibly removed. If you go and research any ancient culture, these things will be embedded into the culture, no matter what language it's in. And you will see all kinds of different beautiful ceremonies that are related to these things. And so this is also stuff that Kara is starting to teach me because, as a mother, I have this amazing honor of bringing the soul from another realm and being able to telepathically communicate with these avatar children. They teach me so much. And so we're beginning to learn how to open these wormholes of consciousness to connect with her on the other side and hold that space open as she comes through and for the years coming that she's here, so that we can create a society where it's no longer normal for us to just totally forget who we are on a soul level and all the things that we've learned in the past, right? As we continue into this adventure of being human. And so what we're realizing then is that the false matrix has normalized forgetting, has normalized amnesia. And the way that because it does this, right? Because that whole idea is embedded in the culture and embedded so deeply in society, you will find that every aspect of society has this underlying reality that there's no soul. Okay, from the way that the hospital system is set up, to the way the education system is set up, to the way the governments are set up, every single system that we have in our reality, in our society, in the modern world, you will find that it's created on the foundation that there's no soul and there's no inherent spirituality and there's no inherent reverence to creation and to life. And so this is actually what I would call a watered down satanic society, because what satanic really is something that's anti-life, something that is not in holiness and not in reverence. We have normalized existing in separation from divinity to the point where there are other things that can only exist in a society where we have normalized separation, things like needing gurus and needing priests and needing middle people and needing, different kinds of spiritual paths to embark on these immense journeys to find what should already be the very essence of who we are. Okay? And so if we understand that there is a process that the soul goes through as it comes in from other realms into the physical body, that somehow there's a process of that energy clicking into the physical body and aligning and coming into life and giving life to the physical body and merging into the physical body. This is the process of incarnation. Incarnation means coming into flesh. I just want to fix this. There you go. Oh, it's still, sometimes the camera goes out of focus. There we go. So incarnation is the process of spirit coming into matter, right? Carne means flesh, coming into flesh, incarnation. There's a science of this process. And this is the stuff that we're going to get into in the advanced levels of the Earthstar Academy, because for all of us that are watching this, we have to basically start our process of incarnation over, because I'm just going to speak for myself, but I think most people in this room, we were not born into a community that prayed and sang songs every day for all of our soul to get into the body and for us to remember who we are and for us to bring our gifts into the world. That's just not how we were welcomed into this world. Hopefully we're creating a society in the future where we are doing those things and we're learning how to bring these divine beings and hold space for them as they journey through the dimensions. But for all of us here, we did not get that kind of luxury. And so for the most part, it's almost guaranteed that we did not incarnate properly, right? On top of that, because the society is basically built on the foundation that there's no such thing as a soul, it basically then disrupts this process of incarnation from the beginning, with the way that the birthing room is set up and how we've normalized all of these kinds of medical procedures, most of which are not necessary. The rates of C-sections have gone up, and we're using numbing medication instead of teaching women how to breathe, and all of these things. So it starts really from conception and from birth, from the unconscious sexual activity that people are engaging in, and that level of unconsciousness brings in energies of unconsciousness, and then we're getting into the birth trauma. There's not really anyone that I've met that don't have birth trauma. And, as soon as we experience these different kinds of things, what we have is a situation where the soul is not making it into the body properly, right? And so then what we're realizing is that we have a society and a planet full of people whose process of incarnation were disturbed, whose souls couldn't make it fully into the body. And so this has created various levels of soul fragmentation. And this is why nobody remembers who they are and feel disconnected from source, because again, that soul inside of us, our soul is a part of ourself, the essence part of our being that's always connected to divinity and to love. This part of us don't need gurus, don't need churches, don't need advanced and complicated spiritual practices, because it's always connected and it always is in oneness. It just is the essence of divinity, because that's what it's made of, that's what it is. And so the fact that we have to go and do these complicated journeys and things to find that part of us already is a signifier that we have normalized being disconnected from our own soul, right? Our soul, the part of us that's always connected to God, source, the universe, whatever you want to call it. And so we realize that because our soul, which by the way, Kara tells me it takes about 2 years, if we can hold a shamanic space for children to come into their bodies for about 2 to 3 years, then they can really cross the threshold with their memories intact and really become the beings they intend to be, and be supported on their journey of the life that they intended to live before coming in. And I believe that every body, every person has, their plans, has their skills, has, the part of their soul, the soul's desires for a lifetime, what their soul is wanting to learn and create and experience and add to their soul's essence in a lifetime. It's actually absolutely, let's just realize it's not normal for people to not know who their what their soul essence feels like and what their soul preferences are and what they're here to bring and learn in a lifetime. It's not normal. Okay? And so because for most of us, as we're coming into the body, that process is disturbed from a very young age, right? From the time when we're conceived to the time we're born to the time we get sent to daycare, and then we're going to school and then watching TV, we're eating junk food. Every single thing in our society disturbs the process of the soul clicking into our anatomy. And this ties greatly into the nervous system. It ties into our blood. It ties into our meridians, and it ties into the fascia and the muscular system, and all of these spiritual components of how the soul actually lands and anchors and connects into our physical anatomy. This is what we call biospirituality, or the science of incarnation. Now, this is where it gets ridiculous, and this is where I'm just kind of bringing our attention to, is that when we realize that this is kind of the understanding that is available, we realize that humanity is actually undergoing what I would call biospiritual abuse. Okay. So we have physical abuse, which is when somebody punches you in the face, right? So it's abuse on a physical level. And then we have emotional abuse, which is when people yell mean things or, do things that hurt you emotionally. And this is what we call emotional abuse. Biospiritual abuse would be when somebody is abusing you on a biospiritual level, or on a level of disrupting the soul's incarnation process into the body. And this is a level of abuse that then is a level of spiritual abuse, right? This is probably the most heinous and horrendous level of pain that anyone can cause, is the severing of our connection to our essence and divinity. And that is the level of abuse that this society has built and is exerting onto humanity. And this is what we have to understand, is that humanity has been under biospiritual abuse for thousands of years. And that is actually why people have a hard time waking up. It's not their fault. That's why we had to come down here with our healing technologies, with our intact DNA. We didn't come down here to judge humans on how abused they are, or how traumatized they are, or how stupid they are, right? We came down here to experience that biospiritual abuse ourselves by being born into the matrix, feeling how fucking painful it was to literally forget who we are and be severed from our own sense of ourself and our own sense of dignity as a soul. That's fucked up. Humanity's gone through some shit. And it's amazing to me that, most people are still kind. Most people are still doing good things. I go to the grocery store and people are smiling at me and they want to have conversations about their dreams and their futures. I love humanity and this innocence and this purity and this desire and this innate joy and kindness that is at the essence of human. And that's what fires me up when I realize that there's literally this planetary agenda to assault that thing. And it's epitomized by pedophilia, right? But really, this is a war on innocence, on the fundamental nature of human. And that is exemplified in this extreme of human trafficking and human child ritual abuse and all of those things, right? And so in order to transform this world, it's not a simple thing. It's not a simple process, but you are all multidimensional beings. We are these multidimensional star beings, and we're scientists, we are artists, we are creators, we are writers, we are societal architects. All of us are coming in here with extraordinary skills and abilities. And one of the words that came through that I thought was so funny this week was spiritual airhead syndrome. And I have to say that I myself was guilty of spiritual airhead syndrome when I was in my early 20s. And I just discovered spirituality and I decided that I hated society, that it was everything wrong with the world and I wanted nothing to do with it and money. I was going to be homeless. I was going to reject all of it altogether. And I basically severed my earth self and my star self and decided that the only truth was all things spiritual, or seemingly spiritual things like quantum energy, higher dimensional energy, love, all of those things, concepts, right? And really, years after this, to the point where I think that, when people stop making sense and the only thing that they're regurgitating are spiritual concepts that have no substance, this is when we slide into spiritual airhead syndrome territory. And I hope that we're all able to laugh at ourselves because these are just parts of our process. Okay? This is part of our growth, part of our ascension process, part of our awakening. We had to decide that some things in society were not for us, right? I was a young person that just woke up and I was like, these are the things that are wrong and I don't want to be a part of it. Now, this is a very important choice, and that was very important for me to decide at that time. And so I was homeless. I didn't have a job. I had no money. I lived with no money for 3 years. I basically crashed on people's couches and lived on the kindness of others. And thank God, I was very protected and very supported. But at some point I was like, oh, I really need to get a job because I need to accept the fact that I'm here as a human being. And there were things that I need to develop and cultivate as a human being, as an earth person. And that was how I had to make a bridge into my human self. I realized that I had to get grounded and find my sovereignty and my creatorship. And by escaping the matrix, I was actually giving it power in this really strange way. Okay. And so that's my brief story about how we overcame spiritual airhead syndrome. Um, let me know what you think about that, right? Because we've all seen it, we all go through it, and at some point, our human self just really needs to grow up and swallow the fact that, it's not going to be easy for us to collapse all of these higher dimensional aspects and collapse it into our human personality, our human self, so we can live as this multidimensional being and not live in, fantasy of what it might be, what those parts might be, or the fantasy aspects of ourself. And so this is what happens when we begin the process of healing from biospiritual abuse, which is a fucked up process. Okay, it's not easy. I can't tell you, because there's no greater pain than being severed from yourself and your dignity and your power as a creator. There's no greater pain. And that is why, it's not for the faint of heart. And most people, choose not to engage in this level of healing. And they say, oh, you can't look at the dark. You can just choose a new frequency. Well, guess what? You really can't embody new frequencies without excavating the shit that's in there in the subconscious, in the layers of our bodies that were, superimposed on top of us as we grew up unconscious, in the earth families that we had. And once again, we chose to experience all of those things so that we can build this compassion and understanding for what humanity has gone throughout this whole process of biospiritual abuse of thousands and thousands of years. Okay? And so let's recap for a second here. Soul fragmentation is basically any time pieces of your soul doesn't make it into your body. Give me a comment on this video if you feel like you have experienced biospiritual abuse. Okay? Let me know if you feel like you have experienced soul fragmentation and that maybe not all of your soul parts are here fully in your body right at this moment in time, right? We've all experienced it, and I'm still integrating and healing because there's so many layers. And the thing is that when we are existing inside of this fallen matrix, so many distortions and false beliefs are normalized that we don't even think that, they are abuse, which is why we have to break things down, why the galactics have, made it my mission to write it all down and categorize these things so that we can mentally and consciously understand all the aspects of this control system that have harmed us. Okay? And so soul fragmentation occurs anytime pieces of your soul doesn't make it into the body. So if your soul doesn't make it into the body, where is it? Where does it go? How do we actually engage and connect with those other pieces of our energy and other pieces of our soul that is not connected to our conscious awareness or inside of our body? The answer is quantum healing. We've all heard about quantum healing, but the depths in which quantum healing goes is immense. I really truly believe that quantum healing is the future of medicine. I believe that the way that we can perform quantum healing is we're only beginning to explore what those things are. And the sound chambers, I mean, you guys have experienced the sound chambers. Yeah. Anne says, how would we know if we are fragmented? Okay, so this is a really easy one. Answer. If you live in a state of absolute connection and you wake up in the morning and you know exactly who you are on a soul level, you know what you're doing here on this planet, you go through your whole day in an absolute state of joy and peace and neutrality and connection to divinity, and you are always in connection with that, and you feel just pure delight in your body, you feel safety, you feel calm, and you go through your entire life in that state of joy, you will be somebody that is totally healed, that is basically non-existent in our world right now, but I want to let you know that it's possible, and that is what we are meant to experience, right? We're meant to experience, all of the joy and beauty and peace that is truly the essence of our being. And this is another way that society has normalized trauma, anxiety, depression, all of these things. They're like, oh, it's just life. Life is hard, right? We've accepted the fact that life is abusive as normal, and it's not. And so I'm bent on creating a world. When we think about a golden age, we think about the new earth. How do you think people exist in a new earth? How do you feel like we existed in these ascended civilizations, the angelic and galactic societies that we come from, right? Some of you say, well, I want to go home. What did home feel like, right? Home was joyful. There was a comfort. We had safety in the fact that every single person that was building society together, that was in community together, shared the same deep connection and reverence for creation and life and love, right? When we exist in a society where everyone is deeply embedded in the sensation of divine love, that is how a society should be. And that's what happens when a group of people that are totally integrated and soul connected and incarnated correctly, that's the kind of society that we would have. And so we realize that, new earth and the heaven on earth and this, golden age and all these things is not going to be something that magically happens to humanity. It's going to emerge from the group of people that come into that level of integration and incarnation, and we're going to create the foundation of that reality and override and kind of almost make all of the world become that through our creations and our actions, right? And so this is something that requires a lot of time. If you're somebody that has not engaged in multidimensional healing, okay, so you can take me as an example, right? I still have a lot of healing to do because I don't spend my whole day. I still get irritated. I still get anxious. I still get fearful. I can feel that there's parts of my nervous system that have entrained into certain vibrations of being. These vibrations like anxiety and fear that are just so deeply ingrained and learned behavior patterns from my parents and my ancestors that basically have entrained my system to react to situations where I forget that I'm connected to divinity and everything's going to be okay and all of those things. It's like some tragic thing happens and, we get that frazzled nervous system. And, I have spent the last 10 years diligently diving into myself. And the thing is just that, it's going to take a lot of work because this level of biospiritual abuse has occurred on this planet for thousands of years. There's a very deliberate agenda to biospiritually abuse humans through TV, through ritual abuse. Now, we are very empathic as a species, okay? This is another part of our thing as our nervous system. Our nervous system is almost like a tuning fork. Okay. And many people think of this as, empath. They say, oh, I'm an empath. Well, the thing is that all of humanity are empathic. We're all meant to feel emotions, right? The fact that we have now a specific word for a group of people that still have access to it is just a signifier that society's very sick, because all humans are built to have empathy and are built to feel energy and feel each other. And we do this through our nervous system and through these sensors in our energy body and our physical body and our nerves. Okay. And so think about this is a crazy thing. I mean, satanic ritual abuse is a real thing. Human trafficking is a real thing. If millions of people are existing in a state of extreme fear and trauma and pain, that is an energy that you can't get away from. Okay. And that's another reason why when people say, oh, don't focus on the bad, you need to just tune into a different energy. This is really a psychosis. I mean, because you can't separate yourself from the collective. I mean, you can in a way that you can stay in a state of neutrality and you can transmute the energy, or you can block it, right? You can, do all these things, but at the end of the day, just on an atomic level, you exist on this planet. And if somebody's being ritual abused next door, you're gonna feel it. Okay. For me, I'm so sensitive that if it's happening within a 5 mile radius of my body, I feel it in my nervous system, which is why I also work so hard to, support this planet, because I'm really not trying to get out of here. I'm trying to get in here. I'm trying to get in my body as much as I can. I'm trying to get onto the planet and trying to get grounded here and trying to really get a good assessment of where I am and not be delusional about stuff, trying to get really connected with things the way they are so that I can really actually start to bring through medicine, right? We bring through medicine when we're clicked into the reality and we can respond to what the situation needs in real time. And this is how source energy works, is that there is authentic creativity that is always coming out with original creations, new things, novel evolutionary solutions. And this is what we're here to bring. And so, that's why I'm really not concerned about people stealing my work or copying my stuff, because by the time, I say something or I do something and somebody's copied it, the source that's original in me will have already created something else that's meeting the now moment in another moment, right? And this is how we're all meant to operate as source creators on this planet. And so, all that is a long preface to explaining that quantum healing is going to be very deep and very cool in the coming years. I feel that this is kind of the advantage or the bonus or the really um, awesome thing about the Earthstar Academy as a quantum healer training system, because it's not really based on pure intuition. It's based on science and it's based on discovery, right? It's like I've literally sat there and contemplated and dissected these things as my job for the last 10 years. And so what I'm trying to share with you is a dissection of all of the false distortions and the wavelengths of quantum um, thought forms and consciousness that could be dislodged in an anatomy system. And we learn through going in and finding these in ourselves. Now, um, essentially what I'm saying is that because energy and your soul exists outside of this purely 3D matrix, you can access parts of yourself throughout time. This is what quantum means, is that you have access to all dimensions and all of time space here in the 0 point now. And so you can think of it as memory, you can think of it as holographic thought, you can think of it as consciousness, but there's something non-local about it, right? So think about, a trauma, for example. If something bad happened to you when you were a child, you might still, when you think about that memory, you might still feel that upset or that emotion in your body. Things like abandonment, confusion, fear. Um, it could be as simple as, mom leaving you at daycare and you really didn't want to be at daycare and your mom just left. And so now this little part of you feels abandoned. That perfect safety that you've had from mother all of a sudden was ripped out from you. And even though we've normalized, again, in our society, we just really normalize trauma because, how many times have you heard, just let the baby cry it out, right? Just leave them in the crib and let them cry it out. Now, this is, a normalized parenting behavior, or, so many different uh, abusive parenting behaviors have been normalized. And it's because, soul fragmentation and trauma are the backbone of this false matrix, and it literally will normalize these things as part of our culture. Now, all of those things create trauma in our system. And so the good thing is that we can literally correct, heal, and restore any dimensionality, any experience, any memory, any part of our biospiritual system. And this is the backbone of the Earthstar Academy, because we're really breaking down the layers and the systems of our multidimensional anatomy from the perspective of the biospiritual science of incarnation. And this is a really cool stuff is that, my Taoist ancestors were really into this. It's really funny because obviously when I first woke up, I started scanning myself and I realized that this is how my ancestors discovered meridians and stuff. I have a specific lineage of Taoist ancestors who are Taoist masters in the form of energy anatomy. And of course, ancient Chinese medicine is one of the most ancient studies and schools that teach about the light body and about the meridian system and about the science of incarnation. How cool! And so, my higher selves and my earth lineages have a lot of fun together in these processes. But when I first woke up, I was spending hours a day just scanning my system, finding all the places where my soul and my energy body was mismatched or misclicked or distorted or severed or traumatized from clicking into my physical body. And there's so many layers of this that needs to happen. That's why it's not a one-day job. There's no pill that I can give you. I can only teach you how to use these practices and to prioritize this in your life. It's not going to be a sprint, okay? Creating heaven on earth, it's not going to happen in 3 days. It's a greater chance of it happening in 20 years. This is when we're sinking into that slow, massive creation energy of the root chakra, right? Where we realize that we're here for a life's work. And then you really slow down. You're like, it's okay if I'm at my matrix job for 6 more months. It's okay if I have to do what I have to do in order to create the right foundations for myself, because I can prioritize and reorient my energy and my spiritual consciousness towards a certain goal. And this is another backbone of the Earth Star Academy and our training, is to really start to orient ourselves towards our creatorship on a daily basis, where we're no longer victimized by the system. One question I got this week that inspired this conversation was a woman who was asking me about travel and the restrictions. She was like, I'm really upset, that I'm not able to travel because of the restrictions. And the thing is that, we discovered recently that basically, even if there was restrictions forever, that there are certain ways like flying private or on charter planes, these realities bypass all of those restrictions. You don't have to wear a mask, you don't have to have passports and all these things. And so essentially, I'm thinking of a future where starseeds have our own airline and we can fly wherever we need to. And we're going to need that because we're going to have to fly to places on this planet to heal the grid and to build temples in places that we wouldn't normally have access to, right? And so then we get into this whole other sphere of creation power. And I'm going to trigger people by saying this. Because I'm gonna hit up right against the places of ourself that are victimized by the system, that believe, and this is a great meme. I saw this great meme of this dog, and it was this like superhero dog, had a cape, looking all proud, and it was like, I'm a multidimensional being, I'm a starseed, I came to the earth to heal the world. And then there's the second half of the picture, which is like the dog, the same dog, but it was really sad. And the meme says, the government told me I can't go outside. It's just showing us this dichotomy, right? And this is another place that spiritual airhead syndrome gets us. Oh, it's so sneaky. It's like, I'm a multidimensional light being and I'm super spiritual and I'm God. Well, God is all knowing and God is all powerful and God is able to access infinite creativity. And so if that's truly who we are, we need to pull that through our humanness, understand how our bioanatomy actually functions to literally stream creation energy through these systems to create infinite creativity. Whatever it is that we need, we can create whatever it is that we need, and we need to do it organically, right? A lot of people are waiting. They're like, oh, I need an angel investor. I'm just like, that's cool, but you're going to miss out on how amazing it feels to reclaim your creator power. Is it coming from a place inside of you that's victimized, that feels like you can't do certain things because the way the system is set up? You feel like, oh, I can't get a job because I'm too spiritual and I can't money is just for matrix people. Making money is for matrix people, and I can't, I'm too spiritual for that stuff. And it's like, well, we're going in, we're going in, we're going in. Okay. So let's go back to quantum healing for a second, okay? Because I obviously can't break down quantum healing in one day because I literally have 3 levels of these classes in Earthstar Academy, from beginner to advanced, the galactic shamanism training. We're going in on all 12D dimensional aspects of trauma that our soul has experienced. And I'm laughing because it's really not funny. It's not funny. Do you know sometimes people laugh when they're anxious? I mean, sometimes I get in trouble because people are like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you just laughed at that. That's so insensitive." But I'm just like, I don't know how else. My system is just so overwhelmed by the amount of healing and the amount of pain and the amount of distortion that souls have gone through. I mean, it's just messed up. I don't know how else to process that. So I laugh. I'm really not making it a funny thing because it just fucking sucks. I mean, you know, as I've continued to spiral deeper and deeper into this work and realizing that many of our star seeds have been abused on a much higher level, with abductions and experimentation and forced breeding programs and all sorts of fucked up stuff. And you spiral through the healing because, again, we can access those dimensionalities in our physical present coordinate because we are quantum and we're in all places at the same time. That there's some levels of this you get to where you just are shocked and in awe of the amount of pain and trauma that souls are able to endure and still, transform it into lessons and into growth and into power. Not saying that we should perpetuate certain things. Like, there are certain things that, even, when you do understand that, yeah, sure, souls can grow and learn and stuff, there's still some things that just shouldn't be, like ritually abusing children. That's just like a giant no in my books. I don't know, some people can kind of spiritually talk around it being like, oh, whatever, but like in the millions on one planet, like that seems like you experience it one time and you kind of good, because we're all one thing, so we don't need to experience it more than once. So we definitely have a huge issue on that front. But we realize that we just have a long way to go, because in order for us to actually fully embody our power, we need to go through these levels of healing to pull our soul fully into our body. This is really why, ISA can be a 3-year long curriculum, because there's really just so much to apply. It's not really a school where you do intellectual book learning, even though the information is going to just nourish your mind and make you feel like you're not crazy and you're finally getting nourishment, real school learning. But really, the application of it is really the hard part, right? It's one thing to know, it's another thing to wake up in the morning and be committed to the healing process every single day. And this is what warriors are made of. This is how we're going to show this world, God, because this is the stuff that I'm getting chills. It's like the level of devotion to this process is not something that can be driven by any egoic desire, okay? Nobody wakes up in the morning and goes into their greatest pain because they're going to get rich or they're going to be famous, or it's like there's just not enough motivation. The strongest form of motivation is your love and devotion to life itself. This is the commitment that angels make, that priests and priestesses make to the temple of living creation, of the universe, right? We love, with this love that we have for life, it's so great that we will overcome all atrocities and all difficulty to get to a place where we are activated and on our mission and we're doing what we came here to do. And there's no easy way through that, but it's going to be really fun if we do it together. And so I guess that's kind of the bonus in all of this, okay? And so, on a closing note, I don't want to go on forever here, On closing note, we're going to just briefly touch on this entry into quantum healing, where we're just going to begin by doing inner children healing. This is why I uploaded this full quantum healing guided meditation last night onto my YouTube channel. I'm going to play it at the end of this video, but you can access it as its own video. You can find the link. I'll post it as well in the chat. It's in the description box. You can find it in the YouTube channel. This is a very entry level quantum healing exercise or technique. And essentially what we're doing is we're beginning to experiment with what it feels like to journey with our consciousness to different moments in time where we might be carrying pain, right? I say this is a very entry level technique because this is only the beginning of us realizing that we can move and shift the perspective or the vantage point of our consciousness. And there's very many different levels of this that we can do. I think that starting with the healing of our inner children is essential because this is really the closest fragments of our soul that are frozen in different time coordinates, right? In our current is the things that we experience in this current lifetime. And so we want to start here because it'll create a strong foundation that our human self is feeling together and anchored and safe. And we're starting to feel whole in our humanness. And then this foundation allows for us to explore the other levels of our trauma. I like to ensure that we begin. This is why everyone's going to be, I don't want to say forced, but it's going to be mandatory to go through the beginner level classes. I know that some of you are really advanced, but trust me, even the beginner level is not going to be any material that you ever seen in any other place, because I'm not going to just be talking about the chakras. I'm not just going to be talking about, inner children and these things. I'm going to be speaking about it from a perspective that ties into the story. And so it's going to be really incredible. But today, I just want to share this inner child healing journey with you. It's a free tool that you can start to use. I would love to get your feedback on what you experience. People are already finding their soul fragments, and so that's really, really beautiful. You can find that video as a standalone video on my YouTube channel. The link to it is in the description and also in the chat. If you're here live, I'm going to play it at the end of this video in just a couple minutes here. So there's another chunk of this that I won't get into right now, that, one of the byproducts of soul fragmentation is that sometimes the soul piece can still be inside of our personality. It's just not connected to the rest of us. So this is when we can develop different kinds of neuropathic tendencies or addictions, right? Sometimes because for example, sometimes one part of us might really want to eat McDonald's, okay? And then there might be a different part of us that really believes that McDonald's is really bad for us. And so clearly there's two different parts that are both us that have different perspectives. So this is another sign that there's fragmentation, is disintegration, that we've fragmented into these parts, and these parts have different perceptions and understandings. And so another thing that can happen here is that we'll experience something in our youth that, for example, if you grew up in a family where you had to basically be the emotionally mature one and take care of everyone and be the problem solver and be the adult in some way, and nobody was there to help you solve your crisis, and you had to really take care of yourself, you're going to develop a part of your personality that might be overly protective and that might isolate, that might have a hard time making friends, right? So that part of you is a fragmented part that has taken on its qualities that can no longer distinguish between it and the totality of yourself. So obviously it's not your soul that's making those choices, right? To isolate and to not be able to act and make friends and experience intimacy and things like that. So that's a sign that there is a fragment. that has dissociated, but it didn't completely fracture and leave the body. It just became a part or a fragmented part. And so in extreme cases, this can turn into, a dissociative identity disorder. I think that everyone has dissociated identities, just not to the extreme where the identities no longer recognize each other or know that each other is there. I think to an extent, for example, when we hyperactively clean the house because we need to be in control, that would be a part that's doing that, right? Or we are smoking cigarettes, even though we know that that's not the healthiest thing. It's a part that's using the tobacco as a coping mechanism for something that it feels that it needs, right? So I believe that no addiction is bad, and that, addiction and mental illness and things like that are just ways that our parts have learned to cope with a very broken society that is built to abuse us, right? And when we understand that, then we can approach our humanness with compassion and to bring to our humanness these more gentle and compassionate coping mechanisms like meditation and movement and self-healing and all of these things, to cope more effectively and to bring in the higher support of our soul and, God and all of those things, which can greatly support our human in this process of healing. Okay. And so this is another way that we can tell we have soul fragmentation, is that we're not always making decisions from our soul, that sometimes we make decisions from these parts that are in fear. We might always attract the wrong kind of partner. They might be emotionally vacant. They might, be even, abusive. Why is it that, your soul, when you are embodied and you're existing as your pure essence, you wouldn't be creating those situations. So who's creating those situations? There are fragments, these slices of our personality that have become dissociated. And, that's a whole conversation in and of itself, that we will break down in a different video. But for now, we're going to go into this little meditation. You're welcome to get comfortable. I really miss doing the singing and the healings in the beginning and the end of these videos, but unfortunately my studio is not going to be set up for another couple of weeks. And so I'm just trying to make do with these little intro videos. And if you go back to my older Starseed Mission Supports, I usually start these transmissions with some singing and we could finish with a live healing. But for the next couple weeks, we're just going to have to do with these recordings. I'm happy to share these things that are coming out of the vault. But, if you like to experience this healing now, it's about 12 minutes long. It's going to guide you through a guided meditation into journeying and finding any fragments or frozen pieces of your inner child. For those of you that are on Instagram, I'm probably not going to be able to stream that. You can head on over to my YouTube channel if you want to find that. You can find that link in bio, or just go and search the Earth Star Academy on YouTube, and you'll find the latest upload, which is the Inner Child Quantum Healing. So on that note, I'm going to just exit out of the Instagram feed here. I love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Come find that healing if you like. I'm going to probably upload it onto Instagram at some point. Remember, you can come and join me on Telegram, where I'm going to be able to share more things that are just more candid. I can just say whatever I want on Telegram, and I can't really do that on some of these other platforms. But anyway, I love you guys, and I'll see you guys over on Instagram another day. End it now. Okay. And back over here. Okay. We're excited for this video here, so I just invite whoever that wants to join in this healing now to just, lie down, get ready. We're going to take you on a journey. You can also do this later if now is not a good time for you to embark on this journey. The recording of it is on the YouTube channel now. And so I hope that this conversation was helpful for you. Drop me a comment in the comment section to give me feedback if you enjoyed this conversation. And I'm going to go into the quantum healing now, and I'll see you cats next week on Starseed Mission Support.
In this meditation, we will be exploring the process of multidimensional quantum healing through the act of journeying. We will be moving into a space to access different time coordinates of ourself to learn that we can actually bring healing and resolution and peace to different coordinates of time-space in the past. As we move into the quantum reality where all of time is coexisting, we can find the parts of ourself which experienced separation or loneliness, pain or trauma, and we can offer those parts of ourself throughout time-space the love and security they might be needing. Taking some long, deep breaths into the lower belly, coming into a space of relaxation in the body and the mind, expansion in our spirit. And as we connect with these subtle, energetic realities of our body, begin to shift our awareness through the top of our head, intending for the presence of our highest source-connected aspect of self as guide. We shift our awareness back through time to when we were still inside our mother. Tuning into the memories of the somatic body, tuning into our memories in our morphogenetic field. Allow the mind to rest, to be easy, and just trust in any energy or emotion which begin to arise. Is there any anxiety? Is there any fear? Just intending to connect with that part of ourself which is still inside the womb. Envisioning a brilliant golden light and a beautiful soft pink light to envelop your body, envelop the womb that you are inside of. For any fear, any anxiety to dissolve into a field of unconditional love and peace. Breathe into this space. Breathe into this love. Any tension or lower energies to simply transmute through the power of our awareness. We now shift our awareness to when we were maybe time as we begin to take note of the energies that may be around us. Any part of ourself that might be emerging for any love or assistance or healing from this time period. Peeking into the air around us, also representing the emotional or energetic terrain of our environment. And again, filling the space with golden energy and a beautiful soft pink energy, vibrations of clarity and unconditional love, holding any parts of ourself that may have experienced any fear or abandonment or anxiety. Allowing our awareness to move to any other time coordinate now. Any part of ourself throughout time-space that might be needing a little love, a little support today. Maybe you're 5. Maybe you're 26. Whichever part of you which arises in this now, simply tune into the feelings and the emotions that are arising to be transformed. Breathing in a golden light energy and a soft pink energy, an unconditional love that washes through our body and timeline, bringing relief that these parts can finally be heard and be seen and be loved. Any part of ourself which might be feeling insecure or afraid, opening up the space to communicate with these aspects of ourself. Perhaps it's a part that we've been trying to remove. Perhaps it's a part that has a habit that we're trying to forcibly remove. Perhaps all these parts needed was to feel accepted and unconditionally loved and felt and seen. And through that process of feeling their pain and their confusion, that then they no longer need any vices, that they can finally allow the difficult feelings to transform. Opening up the space to listen, and give love to all the fragments and pieces of ourself which have felt judged or imperfect or broken. Just opening up the space to receive and be present, and in a space of unconditional love for all of these pieces of ourself. Filling up the space with the feeling of having a peaceful and loving mother, a caring and open father, allowing this energy of the divine family to permeate the energy body and permeate our entire timeline, sending this healing to our entire ancestral line. Allowing all the fragmented parts of ourself to receive the vibration of unconditional love. Breathing into the space. Know that your love is always here for you. In the oneness of all that is, the same love of the divine is the same love that pours through you, is the same love that is reaching out and permeating every dimension of your body, your mind, your energy body, and your spirit.
Okay. Well, I hope that you enjoyed today's episode of Starseed Mission Support. I hope that you enjoyed that little meditation, and know that you can use that meditation to move and enter different spaces of quantum journeying, and that the more time that you spend in that space and the more you engage with it, the more healing work that you can do. And I hope that you spend lots of time just exploring that space, because so many things are possible from that space of exploration. And so on that note, I love you all so, so much, and I will see you next week on Starseed Mission Support. Bye, family.